always wonderful to speak to you.
Hey,
Big fan of the show, big fan of Marvin. So, one of the things that I absolutely love about Marvin is his unpredictability. But he was on this kind of emotional, even path. He was finding the anger management was working. Season 4 doesn't look that way.
right.
What is going on with the anger management and the control of his emotions?
I think that first, thanks for having me. That's the first thing. The second thing is that I think as people are starting to finally kind of recognize the arc that's been happening with Marvin in season one, he was going through, he had the anger issues as the judge put it. So he assigned him to anger management. In season two and season three, we started to see him implement some of those breathing exercises. And but after Gerald, his friend from therapy, after he got crossed by Gerald, that kind of set Marvin off in a different kind of way. As far as Marvin thought he had an understanding of what a friendship is and what loyalty is, because that's what he is. He's very solid and loyal. But once he felt crossed, I think by a few people too. But in season four, we get to see the other side of Marvin where he has just zero tolerance for anything that isn't solid. Also, with the fact that he's trying to prove his respect. So anybody crossing those lines, Marvin's not tolerating it in season four, not at all.
Oh, wow. So what I was interested was the fact that when he killed the guy, he was meant to just beat him up, scare him a little bit, but instead because he disrespected him, he killed him. Do you feel that there's repercussions for that murder?
And which one? Which episode are you talking about?
This would have been episode 2
Okay,
when at the pool hall.
okay, yeah. See, y'all sometimes y'all know the show better than me. Uh, okay, so yeah, I don't know if there's any. I don't know if there's any repercussions to that, or not directly. Karma always has an interesting way of circling back on us, but I don't know if there's anything directly. Either way, whether it does or not, Marvin's ready to tolerate or put up with whatever comes with that. All Marvin knows is at that particular moment, the disrespect that he felt wasn't gonna get a pass. So if there's some karma for that, Marvin's like, all right, well, bring on the karma. I'm gonna take him out too.
Right. Now, also the evolution of Marvin's relationship with his daughter, Jukebox. What was fascinating is when she stood up to the military officer who came to the door and she said, "Look, I'm gay. Is that you can do about that?" You stood there proud, which was the complete opposite of when you found that out.
Yeah,
So, what I want to know is, can you talk about kind of that role of acceptance and where do you see that father-daughter relationship going now that she's home?
I think I think that Marvin is continuing to. I think in season three he was super dad because
Mhm.
sometimes you go one extreme. He's trying to find the middle, but in order to find the middle, you kind of sometimes got to go way to the other side to figure out what the balance is. So I think in this particular season, Marvin starts to find the balance. But just as he's beginning to find the balance, he's also starting to see his characteristics within her. And so I think that becomes a little scary for Marvin when he finally kind of dials in on who she is and what their connection is. Along with finding out who she is, he's finding out, oh shoot, she's like me. So it starts to line up in an interesting way that presents a challenge to Marvin that he hasn't dealt with before.
By any chance, do you feel that that involves the family business?
Yeah, I mean naturally because she's a part of the environment. So
Right.
her just being part of the environment, and she's been watching her dad, even though they didn't always hang out like that. And she's doing the dance group and pursuing the army and stuff like that. At any rate, she's still seeing and breathing and talking the same air and language as her aunt, her cousin, and you know um and her father. So it's a combination of everything. Naturally, as we all have some sort of influence from our environment. So it's just trying to decide, picking and choosing which things are going to be the healthiest for us. And we don't always choose those things. Sometimes we just go with what's convenient. And we start to see that within Jukebox.
Oh, goodness. Oh, I was wondering, do you feel that it would be him who would make that suggestion, or she would probably pull the trigger first? Because he's done everything to keep that separate from her.
You know, I think it's a little bit of both. I think, for example, uh, if we want to talk about the emotional trigger, we can almost say that he pulled that one first. And so she's just responding and going with the flow accordingly. So they both have some responsibility in how she's moving about. So I can't even say that who decided to pull the trigger first, because it's almost like they both at some point, even if Marvin had pulled the trigger, he may have put the gun in her hand, and from how he was treating her. So they both play a role in that.
Mm. So one of the things that we also have to talk about, the brother relationship between you and Lulu. You was in that car, and it was this moment of understanding and love and acceptance.
Mm-hmm.
Will that kind of relationship continue, or will it still remain rocky?
I think it's one of those things where I think for Marvin, for Marvin, he's always, at the end of the day, he's a loyal kind of a guy to a fault almost, a lot of times. But he is there for his brother. As brothers, they do have their moments, but overall, Marvin still loves Lou, good, bad, or indifferent, whatever Lou is. Like I said, even with the last season, you know, it was Marvin telling Rock, "Hey, I know he done messed up. Let's show up." I gave him a couple dollars. He's trying to get his club together. Let's show up. Let's try to support him. And like I said, Marvin is the kind of brother where he may not be perfect, but he do show up in whatever version of him, if his whatever version he has of trying to show up. He'll do what he need to do. He gonna be there, like I said. He already saved him once from the burning house. So if he can do that, even with the addiction that Lou was going through, Marvin is still. Even when Lou didn't show up for his daughter for Jukebox talent show or the audition with the music and so forth, still Marvin is like, "Yo, you my brother. We gonna fight, but I still got your back."
Right. Do you feel that there will be an understanding? He cannot actually be in his shoes, but is there an understanding of when he tried to commit suicide and the abuse that he went through, the drug abuse?
For sure, there's an understanding because Marvin has, vestiges in his past that he always has to deal with. Because at one point, people have to remember that Marvin was also addicted to drugs. Hence why Rock took over the whole situation of family business. And so that part of Marvin, that empathy that Marvin shares for Lou and shares for his family is always there because again, he said, "Man, I wasn't always perfect." He got the situation with his daughter and all that stuff he's dealing with, also the past of how his dad went out. So he felt like his dad quit on the situation. So I don't think quitting is ever really in Marvin's uh, energy. So he's gonna try to show up. He's gonna try to be there and not throw his hands up just because things don't always look right. Because that's the kind of guy Marvin is.
Right. Can we talk about that dinner scene with the mama Joyce?
Okay.
We already know the history that Marvin has with his father and how much of a burden him leaving put on him. Now with his mother being diagnosed with cancer terminal, there's a lot of emotions that can come to the surface with that. Can you say how he felt in that moment when he learned of her diagnosis?
Oh, you're a couple episodes in.
Yeah.
Oh, look at you knowing some stuff. I never know what I said. Oh, she must know stuff. Go ahead, research. Go ahead. I think in that moment, there's a couple things. Marvin's trying to process how long and why didn't she say anything? How we didn't know, and was he the son that he needed to be? I thought she was cool. I thought we was cool. She never told me. I think it's just a lot of confusion of just trying to process and filter through all of this because again, they're still living their own lives, and they don't do this every Sunday. So Marvin was like, okay, well, we sitting down, we about to eat. Let's have a
Right.
discussion. What are we doing? What's going on? I'm ready to eat, but what's happening? So by the time he gets into it, it takes Marvin some time to really wait. Did I hear what I think I just heard? And how long does she really have, or what? So that scene, I think, when in the audience when they really process that and get that going, that's like, whoo, oh, that's just another. This ain't got nothing to do with the streets. This is a
Right.
whole other issue that the family got to deal with. They ain't got nothing to do with Stefano. Ain't got nothing to do with how many packs were sold, Neek. None of that. This is everybody now has to process this for themselves as siblings. We all, and I only know this because I'm going to my fifth funeral
I'm
Tuesday.
sorry.
And but what happens is when you lose somebody, I remember I lost my brother in 2015. My brother was murdered and so forth. And I remember we all dealt with it in our own way. I'm dealing with it because I'm the older brother. Man, is there anything I could have done to protect him? And then my mom, she's dealing with him because that's her son. And my younger sibling, because he was the big brother to her. And so everyone process this situation and have to deal with it in whatever way, and hopefully Marvin didn't have no arguments with her like that, anything like that. But now I don't know if Rock had one because I haven't watched the show yet. But
Right.
um, but just each sibling has to process it their own way. So at that time, Marvin is just trying to figure out, wait, what? So it's gonna take him a minute.
Right. She does say, if my kids wanted to see me, I'm right here. They never showed up. Is
Hmm.
there a reason as to why Marvin never just dropped by to say hello weekly or once a month?
I think Marvin just took it a little bit, was just Marvin just being wrapped up in Marvin stuff. And it's one of those things where I'm sure he probably showed up, dropped off a few dollars, kept it moving, didn't make a big thing out of it. Mom gonna be here. We'll get around to her, kind of like what we do, what some of us do
Mhm.
anyway. It's like we're gonna get over there. I'm gonna see her. I'm gonna, make a call and say, "You good? Need some groceries?" And we kept it moving. So the fact that it was something that was different this time. It was like, oh, he got to own it. He has to own that and figure out how he how he feels about that because right now I don't think there was any serious beef at least with from Marvin and the between Marvin and the other siblings. Marvin didn't really had no I don't think he had no beef with it. He wasn't had no
Right.
issues, but I think the other siblings had some discourse.
Right. Well, Unique is alive, which was a huge shock to a lot of people. He's working in the shadows and trying to take Marvin, the whole family,
Yeah.
down, essentially. Um, First of all, what was your reaction when you learned that Unique was alive? And then with season four, he's definitely causing a lot of trouble for Marvin. We already saw the two murders, and the drugs are missing, the money is missing. Um, do you feel that he will have the not the intelligence, but the know-how to find someone who they doesn't even know exist?
You say you asked me if I feel that Marvin will.
Marvin, yeah, because he's looking. He almost killed a kid, but
You know what? Marvin is Marvin's got is going to be having issues with Neek for a while. In general, Marvin's never like Marvin. Marvin just dealt with Neek on behalf of business and what his sister was standing on, and he's kind of going with the flow again. Marvin's kind of he's easy going in that way, but at the same time, Marvin's also trying to put together. It's so many puzzles within his show.
Mhm.
Characters have puzzles that they're trying to put together. Like I said, Marvin, another puzzle is Marvin. Initially, Marvin was trying to figure out he and his daughter, and then he and Gerald. When it came down to even with him and Rock, he's trying to figure out how they gonna work together. Hence why he's sliding over to maybe work with Stefano. Maybe that's a puzzle. So this it's the same thing with Neek. Marvin is always all these characters are trying to solve these put these puzzles together and best way they know how, and put the context clues and try to connect certain dots, but also while focusing on their own business. So it's a
Right.
process.
The FBI is still technically in the shadows. Someone is watching Stefano's place. And we already know that you've kind of created that relationship. Do you feel that he has to be extra safe no matter what, but especially around someone that has such close ties to so many other different, you have the Italian business and other things that is going on that he could easily, well, we already know he's being framed for a lot of things that he didn't do. So is he more cautious this season?
I think the main person I think Marvin is being cautious about is his sister, because
Oh,
he's trying to get, again, he's trying to, Marvin for the first kind of real time is really kind of doing his own side business, and it's not the best because it was with someone his sister was doing business with. So the main person he knows he's gonna have to, he may have to answer to at some point is his sister. Everybody else in comparison, I don't think they are as important to him as the accountability that he's gonna have to answer for uh, with his sister. He's like, okay, let me keep this under wraps because I kind of like where this respect level interaction is going with Stefano. So let me kind of dodge as many bullets as I can for my sister. The other ones I can figure that out. But his sister is still, because I think he feels his sister is the smartest.
oh,
So
is that
everybody,
jealousy?
say it again.
Is that jealousy?
No, no. I think Marvin just understands that that's part of why he's able to listen to her, because he does respect her. He don't like the fact that she is as smart as she is, but he knows that she knows the game, she knows what she's doing, and she's strong. So Marvin's like, okay, my sister ain't no fool. So I want to be my own man, but I also got to keep an eye out for her. And then, like I said, as far as everybody else, Marvin's, I think, is still trying to keep under the radar. But the main thing is he wanted his sisters is the real threat.
So one of the big themes for this series season is killers are born, soldiers are made. Where do you feel Marvin falls into that?
Soldiers are born, soldiers are made. I think that I think it's a little bit of both.
Mhm,
Um, I think that there's something within Marvin that, as far as the killers are born side, meaning
mhm.
if you cross his family, which he's loyal to, you don't have to. He ain't got to be trained for that. He's responding. But also, as far as the soldiers are made, knowing how to be responsible with the assignments is where he has been his learning curve. Like he's had to learn some things from dealing with Rock and know how to be effective. Um, in order to be effective properly, there's some things that Rock needed him to execute. There's some things that he's executed without Rock's help to silence in season one, to silence those who was coming to pose a threat to his nephew. So he took out the guy uh, after they did that drive by on Neek.
Right.
Marvin had to take the old boy out because again it might be a threat to Kanan slash the family. So Marvin is I think he's a little bit of both.
Okay. Now, also in the mix is snaps and pops. Now we know that exclusively they've been dealing with Raquel. However, they do have history, which technically means they have history with Marvin. Will there be an interaction with them that you can tease? Or just a yay or a nay?
You know what? I think there are some connections.
Mhm.
I don't know how direct they are. Um, I don't know how direct they are because they've been doing a lot of stuff on low with Kanan.
Right.
So I don't know if Marvin, we don't really quite know all of what's going on, but we know there's some things going around in the streets that there's some rummaging going on about Kanan's dealing with some outside sources that they don't really, they like, yo, he's doing something else. This is different from what the Kanan we know. He's moving on it on his own. So where is he getting his influence to move on his own? And I think maybe somewhere in there, Marvin starts to try to connect the dots on what source is this? Is it potentially snaps and pops? What's up? So I don't know. It may not be. I don't know if it's any direct uh issues or confrontations, but I think Marvin is trying to connect the dots and help Rock connect the dots as well.
Okay. And then kind of lastly, I was wondering, everyone seems to have their own, like their own partner. I know in terms of someone they can rely on, they can fall back on. You know, at the end of the day, Kanan can fall back on Raquel. I was wondering, is there a person that fits the bill for Marvin?
I think the one person that Marvin can fall back on is Jukebox.
Okay.
You know, through the pair and everything, and I think it's almost a little bit of a surprise for him. Um, but I think she's been moving in a way that's been very solid and sound for Marvin to the point where, because even in the last season, he thought this last season because he said to her, "Hey, I want you to teach me how to be, your father," and she had to repeat it back like that don't even make sense. But he knew then, he's always known that she's been, even though they didn't see eye to eye, she's been solid. He didn't raise no chump. She's been tough, and so I think she's one person that he can trust.
Is that fair? Because she is technically a child.
Yeah, I don't think that is. Well, I think it's fair that I think it's solid of him to be able to trust his own daughter, but to
Mhm.
put the responsibility on her is kind of wild. It's like, yo, Marvin, don't but right now Lou is not always so stable. The
Yeah.
nephew wilding out. I think he does trust Rock, but he would hate to have to trust her, but he does. And he would hate to have to say, hey, go to her asking for some help and have my back. But at the end of the day, we realize Marvin may not know this, but the audience knows that Rock is also someone that he can trust because in season 3 there was a scene where uh Detective Howard was saying, "Yo, let Marvin take the fall for all of this, the issues that's going on that they about to pin the whole family. Let Marvin." And she said, "No, I'm not selling my brother out like that, my family." So the audience knows that Rock has his back, but Marvin just he hopes that she does. He somewhere in there, I'm guessing, he's like, I guess she do. So until Rock would actually tell Marvin, like, Marvin, I got your back. But that scene, that sort of scene of life is not happening for them. She not
Right.
folded. She ain't about to tell him. She love him. She ain't gonna tell him that though.
Too much of an ego.
Too much of an ego.
So thank you so much for speaking to me. You know, I love the series already. I love your character and all the characters. So thank you so much.
Thank you for even talking to me. I appreciate you.